Good afternoon, everyone. The webinar will begin in just a couple moments. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for being patient. We are about to start the webinar, so thank you all for joining us for an excellent conversation today. And officially welcome to the webinar, Empower Her, Women Shaping the Future of Business, part of AEO's Equity and Opportunity for All series. We're thrilled to have you with us to celebrate Women's History Month and discuss the vital role that women entrepreneurs play in fostering economic equity and sustainability. Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for being patient. Apologies for that. That's our live stream. So before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. Today's session will be recorded and distributed and shared with attendees. So don't worry if you miss something on your notes. You'll be able to have that in a post email following this webinar. Feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit any questions for our panelists. We'll aim to address as many as possible during the event. And if we can't get to all of them, we'll do our best to include those in the follow-up email. To ensure a smooth experience, please remain on mute throughout the event for respect to our panelists. And we'll also be sharing some links to resources and some recent resources, specifically our Women Business Ownership fact sheet in the chat during the session. So be sure to check those out. And you can see those as the webinar progresses. I'll be dropping those throughout the screen. So without further ado, let's get started. To begin, it's my honor to introduce Natalie Madeira-Cofield, President and CEO of the Association for Enterprise Opportunity, AEO. Under Natalie's leadership, AEO has been a leading advocate for underserved entrepreneurs across the country, creating pathways for equitable economic opportunity. And without further ado, I will welcome Natalie.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalie Madeira-Cofield, and I am the President and CEO of the Association for Enterprise Opportunity. I'm delighted to welcome you to today's webinar, Empower Her, Women Shaping the Future of Business. This event is part of our ongoing Equity and Opportunity for All series, serving as a vital platform to discuss economic equity and opportunity within the small business community. Today, more importantly, it is being held in honor of Women's History Month. Since our founding in 1991, AEO has been the leading national association for small business development in the United States. We represent organizations and providers that support the nearly 33 million small businesses in the United States of America and counting. Our mission is simple yet powerful: to create economic opportunity for underserved entrepreneurs across the United States. We support over 2,700 organizations, ranging from business support organizations to lenders, by providing advocacy, research, and capacity building resources. One of our flagship initiatives, the Business Health Assessment, addresses critical financial and operational gaps for small businesses and is being utilized by business support organizations across the nation. Since our founding nearly 35 years ago, we have been responsible for informing and advocating for policies that have provided more than $1 billion in resources to entrepreneurial ecosystems across the country. Our corporate partnerships and government agency relationships and our relationships with philanthropic organizations are crucial to advancing the needs of entrepreneurs that we serve. In addition to our day-to-day efforts and our Equity and Opportunity for All webinar series, AEO hosts impactful events like AEO Talks, regional councils, and various conferences, as well as our Data to Dialogue Research Conversation series. Today's webinar offers a platform to discuss economic equity and opportunity for women-owned businesses. It's essential to recognize and support the remarkable contributions of women entrepreneurs. Women-owned businesses contribute over $2.5 trillion annually to the national economy and are driving an entrepreneurial boom in communities across the nation. Since 2007, the number of women-owned businesses has grown by 58%, nearly 5 times the national business growth rate. This growing momentum is especially driven by women of color, who account for a significant share of new businesses started each year. Women of color represent 57% of women currently taking steps to start a business, underscoring the rising entrepreneurial spirit within these communities. Further emphasizing these contributions, AEO is proud to release a new fact sheet on women business ownership. This publication highlights the contributions of women-owned enterprises, the unique challenges women entrepreneurs face, and the support systems necessary for continued growth and success. If you haven't already, I encourage you to download the fact sheet and explore the valuable insight that it provides. At AEO, we are committed to advocating for women entrepreneurs and ensuring that they have the resources and supports needed to thrive. We invite all stakeholders, policymakers, and members of the public to join us in these efforts. By supporting women entrepreneurs, we can help create a more inclusive and equitable business environment for everyone. So let's get started with today's webinar. It's my pleasure to introduce AEO's Senior Research Associate, Dr. Lori Smith, who will share a research presentation on the current landscape of women business ownership and set the stage for an insightful discussion with leading experts and advocates. Lori, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Natalie. I'm Lori Smith, and it's an honor to be here with you all today and with such an incredible group of speakers. So our expert panel will cover a lot of ground today in our discussion, and I'm going to start by presenting some key data points and some context to help set the stage for that discussion. And my hope is that after our discussion, we'll all leave with advice to empower women entrepreneurs and to sustain some of these recent gains through business support services, access to capital, advocacy, and more. But first, you can find more data in a recently released fact sheet, as Natalie just mentioned. And then for additional insights, please also visit our research website at AEO, where we have reports and interactive dashboards and business data across geographies and demographic groups. And we always want to develop new tools to support your work. So we would absolutely love to hear your ideas about what you all would like to see in terms of data and research. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us at research@aeoworks.org to talk about anything related to research. So now the main takeaways of my presentation are, first of all, to highlight the really impressive growth of women-owned businesses and their incredible impact on communities across the country. And I'll show that there are still significant gaps. And then we'll turn to the panel to discuss what is needed to address these gaps to empower women entrepreneurs and support broad-based growth across the US. So now let's start with a big picture landscape. So many of you are likely familiar with these statistics, and we just heard some of these statistics already. But often whenever someone talks about why we should pay attention to women-owned businesses, we hear that women, and especially women of color, have been driving a post-pandemic entrepreneurial boom. So today, over 13 million businesses in the US are women-owned, accounting for roughly 39% of all firms in the most recent census data available. And these women-led businesses collectively employ about 10.5 million W-2 workers and generate approximately 2.5 trillion in annual revenue. This underscores their really significant impact on the US economy. But when we look at employment, it's also important to note that, like most businesses, most women-owned businesses do not have any W-2 employees. But when we look at all types of workers, we find that 96% of women-owned businesses engage at least one worker in their business when considering all types of workers. So this includes 1099 workers, temporary workers, and a number of different other worker categories. So again, this underscores the significant economic impact and create the way women-owned businesses create opportunities across the country. And looking at the most recent entrepreneurship survey data, we also see that women business ownership is approaching parity, with women representing 45% of entrepreneurs, or more than an estimated 15 million businesses. So this is even higher than the previous census estimates we just saw, because this is based on more recent data, and also because survey data is more comprehensive than census data. This is because census data often excludes businesses with less than $1,000 in documented income. And we know that women-owned businesses tend to be smaller than men-owned businesses. And again, the point then is that we see women business ownership playing a pivotal role in the business landscape in the US. And again, one of the important things about this growth is that women of color have been a major engine of new business growth in the US. And to get a sense of the overall scale and significance of businesses owned by women of color, these charts show the share of total women businesses owned by different racial and ethnic categories by year of establishment. And so what you'll see here is that a large and increasing share of businesses are owned by women of color. So on the left, we see that before 1990, only 12% of women founding businesses were women of color, versus approximately 88% being white-owned businesses. But among businesses started in the last 5 years, roughly 60% were founded by women of color. So this growth is not just impressive, it's transformative. So the rise of women of color entrepreneurs is reshaping the business landscape, and moving forward, supporting and investing in these businesses will fuel the next wave of community development across the country. But the significance of women-owned businesses, of course, goes beyond just economic output. So this is also about supporting business owners who will hire and reinvest in their local communities, building an economy that truly works for everyone. And our research at AEO has shown that women entrepreneurs often prioritize sustainable business practices, such as environmental responsibility, employee well-being, and community engagement. And in particular, a majority of women entrepreneurs, 59% of women entrepreneurs, are mission-driven, focusing on impact rather than just profit. And women entrepreneurs are also much more likely than men entrepreneurs to support local causes in their communities. And this community focus is also evident in recent findings from the National Women's Business Council, or NWBC, which examined the entrepreneurial landscape among rural and tribal women. And so this report highlights that many tribal communities do not operate with a traditional for-profit mindset, instead focusing on building and nurturing the community. And in fact, 71% of participants in the study reported defining success as seeing people enjoy their products, engage in cultural practices, and building community. And 53% explicitly started their businesses to share their culture and give back to their communities. So again, these findings really underscore the significant impact for communities across the US, and I encourage you to download and check out this report as well. So given this incredible impact, what's the challenge? Well, one challenge is a persistent revenue gap. So women-owned businesses are increasing in number and impact, but they remain smaller on average compared to male-owned businesses. These businesses are often concentrated in sectors with lower average revenues and face significant challenges in accessing capital. So this is a challenge given the reality that wealth often begets wealth. Entrepreneurs with more starting capital tend to generate higher revenues and are better positioned to scale their businesses. And so as a result, the total revenue of women-owned firms lags behind that of men-owned businesses across racial and ethnic categories. And this is driven by funding and industry disparities. And additionally, again, substantial revenue gaps persist along racial and ethnic lines. So we see here that while white women, shown in light blue here, represent a much smaller share of revenues compared to their male counterparts, shown in dark blue, they still receive a disproportionate share of total revenue compared to Black and Latina entrepreneurs who face additional barriers accessing capital and scaling opportunities. And this disparity is especially pronounced given that, just for reference, women of color entrepreneurs represented only 47% of entrepreneurs in the same time period. So this is a really disproportionate distribution of revenue. And also, more importantly, these revenue gaps reflect missed opportunities. So here I want to highlight, again, some really powerful findings from the NWBC's 2024 annual report. So this report found that if women business owners matched the revenue of their male counterparts, we could add an extra 10.2 trillion to the US economy. And if minority women reach the average revenue of white women, they would add 832 billion to the US economy. So reaching parity in business output can also help us create more job opportunities, drive innovation, and build a stronger and more resilient economy that truly works for everyone. So another challenge concerns access to mentorship and professional support. So this graph gives us insights into the steps that men and women take with starting a business, and it highlights some key challenges women entrepreneurs face. So we see that women are more likely to discuss their business ideas with family members and friends, leaning more on their personal networks for initial support. But what stands out here is that women are less likely to engage with mentors or professionals in their field compared to men. And this signals a major support gap. So while informal support matters, access to formal mentorship and professional networks is really crucial for sustaining and scaling a business. And another way to look at challenges is to look at reasons for exiting entrepreneurship. So this chart shows the top reasons why business owners exit entrepreneurship or close their business. And a few things stand out to me. So first, overall, both women and men exit for similar reasons. In general, both cite a lack of financial resources and not knowing where to go for support, but these challenges are slightly greater for women. And then the key thing is that women are almost twice as likely to exit due to a major life event. This includes a new child or caregiving responsibilities in the family. So overall, this signals a gap in accessible resources for all entrepreneurs, but especially for women. And it also signals unique challenges that require more tailored support, especially around family care and financial resources. So again, as we've seen, women face unequal access to industry networks, mentorship, and credibility. And there's so many ways to slice this data, and I can't include everything, but I'm happy to discuss this more in detail if you'd like to reach out and discuss further. And another challenge is a persistent credit gap. So women-owned businesses are less likely to receive the full amount of capital that they apply for example, as we saw in the 2023 Small Business Credit Survey. And then even in government-backed lending programs designed to support small businesses, women receive lower share of funds. So women-owned businesses accounted for just 28.4% of the loan dollars dispersed in fiscal year 2024. So together, these barriers underscore the importance of addressing inequities and expanding access to capital. So to delve into these issues and solutions, we are fortunate to have an esteemed panel of experts with us today. It is my pleasure to introduce our panel moderator, Dr. Shandine Garcia, who will guide us through this important discussion. Dr. Shandine Garcia is a Laguna Pueblo and Chicana leader dedicated to economic justice, indigenous sovereignty, and transformative education. Shandine brings decades of experience as an educator, policy expert, and advocate for indigenous rights. From teaching at the Heart of the Earth Survival School to shaping statewide policy as Deputy Director of Policy and Research for the Governor of Oregon, Shandine has spent her career creating systems that honor Native wisdom and self-determination. As the new Executive Director of Native Women Lead, she's committed to strengthening community, championing Native women entrepreneurs, and ensuring they have the tools to thrive. Known for her deep love of storytelling, learning, and laughter, she leads with purpose, humility, and an unshakable belief in collective power. Shandine, it is an absolute honor to have you guide this discussion, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith. It is an honor to be here. Kwatsi Hoba, Zina Hanusta, Shandine Hanusta. My name is Shandine Garcia, and as she said, I am Laguna Pueblo and Chicana from New Mexico, and I'm calling in from my current homeland. It is an honor to be here. I'm going to briefly introduce our speakers today because you can Google their bios, and you should because they're phenomenal, but we really want to preserve time for you to hear about their expertise and their brilliance. So today we have teed up Nicole Kober, founder of the Bow Collective. We have Jen Earl, CEO of the National Association of Women Business Owners. Leanne Rasachuk, CEO of Women Venture. VR Small, founder and CEO of Veterans Women's Enterprise Center. And Dr. Shakina Williams, Executive Director for the Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership at Babson College. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. It is such an honor. Today, we celebrate the resilience, the innovation, and the impact of women entrepreneurs who continue to drive change in this business ecosystem. I want to be really clear. These women today who show up on this panel, they show up every single day because they believe in the power of entrepreneurship to transform lives and communities. They do this work because they see these barriers that still exist. They see the struggle with the access to capital. They may even themselves experience systemic inequities and the need for stronger support networks. And they all refuse to accept that as the status quo. They advocate, they mentor, they lead with purpose because they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that when women succeed, economies thrive, families prosper, and entire industries are reshaped. As we dive into today's discussion, I encourage all of you, listen with intention, engage with curiosity, and leave inspired to take action. And show a little love. Use the chat. Do the thumbs up. Throw the heart in there. Do the yes, this resonates. +1. I hear you, VR. Copy that, Nick. Yes, Leanne. Jen, I'm with you. Dr. Williams, I hear you. Throw that in the chat and then also throw in the questions. We'll hopefully leave a little bit of time at the end to do that. So let's get started and be inspired. I'm going to ask Dr. Williams to kick off our first question. In your perspective, what are the most critical and transformative strategies for empowering women entrepreneurs, particularly women of color, in the foundational stages of launching and scaling their businesses?
So, Shandi, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And as I was listening to Dr. Smith give all those statistics, I think about 25 years ago, I have the great honor of working for my alma mater, Babson College, that we started a Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership, first of its kind, at a business school. And it kind of, over the past 25 years, we've definitely evolved and been very transformative. And Babson is, if no one knows, we're #1 in entrepreneurship. This got rated #2 best college in the country. When we talk about women, and I'm just so proud to work there under the leadership of Dr. Steve Spinelli, of how a group of faculty and staff came together and recognized that the women identifying students 25 years ago wasn't participating in co-curricular activities. And since that time, the center has grown from working with all of our women identifying students and allies through our mentorship program, through 2 amazing accelerator programs. One is our Women Innovating Now, which WinLab, and then also our Black Women's Entrepreneur Leadership Program that I founded during COVID. That's a story within itself. And also we're the home of the Diana International Research Institute. So when you talk about, transformative strategies, we have done that 25 years ago and even today. We definitely meet the needs of our women identifying learners, but also our allies. And we feel at this particular time than any, we have to lock arms with everyone that believes just what you just said. Women, we paved the way, but we must learn, and we teach this with our learners and also our students. We have to stand together. We have to stand together and support each other, as we're going to have in this conversation about access to capital, access to resources, is when you connect with that woman, being willing and able to help them and mentor them and give them advice. And most importantly, what we see, and I see, people just want to be heard and listened to. So I'm so happy to be part of this conversation.
Solidarity, clear,
Yes.
very clear. Nick, you want to add anything extra to what Dr. Williams offered?
Well, she said it very eloquently, so I think I'll just add a different perspective. I just fundamentally believe that a key to change is our paradigm shift from exclusively focusing on training to being very intentional about transactions, collaborative transactions. And so Dr. Williams and I share a love for all things women in business. I'm a former member of the National Women's Business Council as well. And my experience there, as well as being a 20-year plus entrepreneur, I definitely have my personal stories of successes and struggles as an entrepreneur. I think when it comes to different demographics, we know the data. And when you use the word innovation, I really think that it's not that we don't know the problems, it's what are some innovative solutions that we can provide. So when I asked my 50 closest friends in 2022, who were all very successful entrepreneurs, you guys gave a lot of stats. Small businesses that have generated revenues over $1 million, we know that those are the scaled small businesses. And so our innovative strategy was, what if we created a powerful network of these scaled businesses? What would that next level of transaction look like? And so at the Bow Collective, within 4 years, we've grown from 50 to over 300 of these top tier scaled businesses, and they have done one thing better. We have all collectively formed a for-profit enterprise. And the innovative strategy is, how can you take the already best in class and have them come together as a prime and have each of those partners serve as preferred suppliers. And that model has been an innovative solution. We really believe that smalls must strategize to become big together. Instead of competing over small contracts, what does it look like to transform that business model to where we are mid-size and, dare I say, large firms? We are ready to go toe-to-toe with the big boys and girls in business. And this is one way that we have done it. And I will just share that this prime tiered approach helps us build capacity across 28 states. We have more than 20 industry verticals, including IT solutions, healthcare services, construction management, things that are scalable in their own right. But when you bring them together across states and municipalities, we have really seen a more than $1 billion in gross annual collective revenues with this new model. So I don't think that applies to any particular demographic. I think all smalls should come together and compete in that scalability.
So innovation to create this phenomenal ecosystem. That's incredible, Nick. Thank you. You said for all. I want to pull a focus just a bit to specifically women and maybe have Jen kick off and then VR jump in. So in our current context, and I mean politically, nationally, the whole thing, how do we reframe the conversation to make the case that supporting women entrepreneurs is actually about creating opportunities for all? Jen, I'm hoping you can kick us off.
I love that question so much. So for those of you that don't know, we are celebrating 50 years. NAWBO was born in 1975 when there was no organization that supported women entrepreneurs. They were able to join other organizations as honorary wives, but were not allowed to participate. Through the years, these women came together, spread across the country, and really advocated locally and federally for change that they expected to see. And as a bipartisan organization, they were able to push through HR 5050, which was the Women's Business Ownership Act of 1988, which gave women a right to have their own bank loan without a male cosigner. Additionally, it created the National Women's Business Council and the Women's Business Centers, which I know that a number of you are super familiar with, and they do really, really amazing work. So I think, and I've been on the Hill, I think, I don't know, every other week I'm up there talking about the different things that are impacting the communities with our women entrepreneurs as it relates to taxes and tax reform, as it relates to healthcare and affordable healthcare, paid leave. But as our business owners are getting these opportunities, they're able to scale and hire more people. The stats are what they are. I mean, this is an economic imperative. If, you know, you heard Lori say it, I think, I mean, everybody probably would say the same stats. We almost contribute 3.3 trillion. And to close the gap between male and female women business owners is 10.2 trillion, which is a gigantic economic impact into how we're growing our economies and what we're looking at. Also, our women business owners, they give back to their local communities. They're giving back to their schools. They're giving back to the different, you know, projects, the Girl Scouts, all of those things. They're giving their heart, they're giving their funds, and they're really creating these thriving communities with hiring other people and that sort of thing. So giving them the resources they need is really going to help close the gap and will help the economy grow. And I think, you know, I think we've heard this before too. When women do well, the economy does well. We have over 85% of the purchasing power. We're making all the decisions about purchasing all of the products. If we don't have the disposable income, we can't contribute to the economy, and that's a big bummer. So that's what I would say.
Those are phenomenal facts. So those of you who just heard that and want to chase it, go ahead and chase that organization, because I know Jen can reach out with all of that information. Great. VR, you want to kick in? I think you're muted, friend.
I do. And thank you. Yes, it's been really exciting listening to everybody. The Veteran Women's Enterprise Center is entering its 8th year. And although we focus on entrepreneur women associated with the military, which is Veterans First, we serve active duty, reservists, and military spouse. And we also serve women in our general community. And I think that Nick said a really good thing, that we all know the data. But the truth is, a lot of women don't know the data, and they're not participating in the process that really helps us to grow. Mentorship matters, as we all talk about it. And then there's some statistics out there that show that 70% of the women that get mentorship do twice as well in survival. So we're killing the norm. We're killing the statistics when we actually provide that combinational service. And the VWEC focuses on mentorship and technical assistance combined with what I like to call implementation funding. And that's looking at things a little bit more innovatively, that we're not just going to provide technical assistance to these women, but we're going to make sure that whatever plan we help them put together, they can actually implement. And oftentimes we're seeing these very quick programs that provide really great information. But what we're hearing from the women is that I don't know how to apply this. I don't know how to use this to actually grow my business. I think both Nick and Dr. Williams made a really great comment about how we need to focus on growth. So strategic growth, focusing on revenues, helping women understand you need to validate your products and services actually meet the need and can grow. Then they can invest in themselves. They can continue to invest in their community. And we ultimately just fuel our economy. So women, head of households, giving to their community, philanthropy. That is the triple win that we're looking at when we invest in women. And we need to keep saying the statistics, because too many people don't know the statistics. They're not listening to the statistics. They're not living the statistics, that when you invest in us as women, that's a great investment with a great return. And we need to keep singing that song until it just becomes a melody that everybody's humming.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Honestly, people talk about, well, I know, preaching to the choir. Actually, like, the choir needs to be inspired too. And so that your concept around mentorship and saying these facts and these statistics again and again and again, both inspire and remind us what that means. Thanks so much for that, VR. All right, Leanne, I'm going to shift the next question to you. Access to capital and financial services still remain a very significant barrier. How are these issues uniquely affecting women business owners, and what innovative solutions have you seen that actually help bridge that gap?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to pull on a few threads that I heard as a part of the panel's response, because there's so many good things that we've raised up here, right? And so when we think about capital access, right? Women Venture is a community development financial institution. There's more than 1,000 of us across the country that focus on community economic development and housing. We are often the bridge in between women going after capital to help to start a business, to scale a business, and at the same time, not a lot of people know what a CDFI is, what we do, how we serve community. Most of the clients that come to us are actually $1 million and below, right? So it's an idea that they're just getting started to, I'm a few years into business and ready to scale. And we have been around for 50 years, nearly. And we've got clients who went from a cottage food producer all the way to a store shelf in Australia in a Costco, right? So we have these great examples of people who've grown and scaled. What we hear most often from them is that I don't have access to capital. It's not the same as a male counterpart going into a conversation at a bank. Sometimes it's a matter of imposter syndrome, where we've heard no so many times that we believe that we're not supposed to be at the table, which is completely untrue, right? There are ways for us to navigate the space with community and ally support as they go through that process. And we also need to be mindful of, if you can't get a loan through a bank, don't put it on your credit card. We see that so often, where there are high interest credit cards that are being utilized, or predatory lending, because they're targeting particularly women, low and moderate income individuals, right, to be able to capture those capital resources. And so there comes in the role of CDFI organizations. So we are equipped to help not only provide affordable capital. So when I talk about affordable capital, it's anywhere between 3 and up to 9%, with a lot of CDFI partners. And if you compare that to the cost of what we're seeing right now, which the cost of capital continues to increase, especially in this environment in early 2025. So we need to be able to help people kind of funnel through to community partners who also see them and know them, and they are in community. There's this other beauty around being a CDFI organization, where you can go to someone that sees you, and you may show up to a training class, right, with a child in your lap, because childcare also remains an issue and a barrier for people to be able to participate fully as small business owners and entrepreneurs. Or perhaps the preference is to have a class and a technical advisor who speaks Spanish, right? So there are these community development financial institutions that help to meet you where you are at, who are trusted people and resources within community, that then help you along the life of a loan, or can provide you with a micro grant, right, that can help you either get started, or in an event where there's a natural disaster that occurs, or something else that's out of your control, there's a pool of funds that women in particular can go to and have resources. So that's something that I would encourage people to take away, is to look for the CDFI organizations in your local communities, as well as your women's business centers, as a resource to be able to access not only capital, but also business training and development, and a community of support. So many of our clients go through a cohort model, that at the end of the cohort, you graduate, and that community walks alongside you. And so many people have been through an experience where you don't have to walk it alone, right? So there's this other aspect of the technical tools, the funds, but then also community that sees you and can support you through your entrepreneurship journey.
This is a repeated theme again and again. What does support look like with each other? And what does it take to create the conditions where it's a given that that support for each other is there? I really appreciate all of what you shared, Leanne. Jen, is there something you would like to add to this one?
Yeah, I mean, access to capital and affordable funding is, I mean, it's, when we do our survey out to our membership, it is always either the first or the second. Since I've been a part of the organization, it's a lifelong issue. One of the things we've been working on, that we've been bringing and talking with the legislators, is a definition for micro business. Right now, the SBA defines a business under 500 employees, which is a very big difference between that and a business that has maybe 10 employees. And so we're working on, the definition right now is under 50 employees or under $5 million in revenue. and being able to get that codified so the legislators, as a bipartisan bill, would push that through. There would be recognition that a micro business could get additional tax breaks. They could get credits for, family leave or healthcare and that sort of thing. So we're trying to figure out, what can a solution be to this, and making sure that those that are truly micro businesses get the support that they need, as opposed to competing with those small businesses that are so much bigger.
This is so, I'm like taking it all in. This is so much amazing knowledge. Dr. Williams, did you have anything you wanted to add to that one before I switch to the next question?
Yes, I know we talked a lot about mentorship, but another person that's good for your toolbox is definitely a sponsor. A mentor is definitely one that's been there, walked that path, but that sponsor is going to be that one that's going to advocate on your behalf and really open multiple doors in their network to you. So I would definitely encourage all entrepreneurs to identify several sponsors to help them with their small business.
Appreciate it. We talked about a lot of ideas. We named a lot of the barriers. We talked about really innovative out-of-the-box solutions. Now let's actually share a couple success stories of folks who have successfully navigated these challenges. What key lessons can we learn? Nick, I see you hungry to answer it, so why don't you jump in?
I'm very much a Rubik's Cube player, so I always know that the problem is there, but the solution is there if you keep working with it. And I really do think that one of the things I didn't highlight with Bo is that while we have a majority of membership that are scaled up businesses over 1 million, something that we have embedded into our practice is the networking amongst businesses that can be, some people call it mentoring, but we really call it partnering. So those, what we have found is businesses that are generating under 1 million, it doesn't mean that they're not subject matter experts. Many of our smaller businesses were management level in the government. They were management level in corporate America, and said, hey, I can do this on my own. So we take them as subject matter experts and partner them in a lot of cases with those seasoned business owners, government contractors. So overnight, a business, and this has happened, I would say at least 5% in Bo, which is pretty incredible. You would take a business that generates at least 50 to 100,000. They are a sub to a season prime, and that literally can take their dollars with just one contract. So this is, I believe, we talked about mentors, we talked about sponsors, but true collaboration, true joint ventures, business partners. We really are trying to shift the paradigm versus competing or not going into government contracts as a novice, but it's a win-win. It will help with subject matter expertise, whereas the prime may have obviously have past performance in terms of managing and navigating the criteria for doing larger work. I'm super, super proud to say that our starter, scaler, and sister business owner levels, those that are under 1 million, we have had more than 20% growth to the larger categories, that next level up through this very intentional partnering, teaming, transaction level strategy.
Wonderful. Thank you. VR, do you have a success story or two that you could share?
I
really
do.
appreciate the specific group of women who your organization serves, and I think it's a unique and important niche that we'd love to hear a couple success stories.
Absolutely. And I cannot say enough about the importance of structured programming, particularly for our smaller businesses. We find so many businesses who have been around, 5, 7, some even 10 years, and they are making money, but not the money that they could make because foundationally, they're not structured. And so we found in our program, which is over 6 months, that when you combine that one-on-one mentoring and you provide that right mix of technical assistance, along with the fact that everybody has mentioned, these ladies are going through this together. So they're championing each other. They're supporting each other. When one person wants to give up, another person is saying, no, you can't give up. We got to do this together. And what we're seeing is that a lot of these women don't even know the other revenue streams that are within their business because they're so focused on the day to day. I got to make this payroll. I got to get this done. And then all of a sudden they realize, wait a minute, there's some money over here that I've left on the table. There's some money over here I left on the table. And we're seeing women see an average about a 20% increase in their revenue doing their program. And this only continues to grow when they get out of the program. I'm going to advocate for is that we need a longer touch point. Washington State did a report a couple of years back that said we need 40 to 80 hours of that technical assistance. And many of our programs are doing quick hit. We're giving them a lot of information and then we're checking a box. And a lot of that has to do with funding. And so I want to champion the CDFIs, the ESOs, the BSOs, because the Chronicle of Philanthropy did an article last year called Why Helping Small Businesses Succeed Should Be a Philanthropic Priority. And it's about looking at how we fund these organizations differently because we are different. And so getting the funding to these organizations faster so that they can get the funding to the businesses faster, providing real capacity building so that they can be more technically advanced, so that they can monitor what's going on. And so it's not just the women business owners, but we as providers need to be structurally sound and get the support that we need so that we can provide that to these business owners in a way that makes a difference. So I see a trucking company more than double their revenue just because they figure out, hey, I don't just have to do trucking, I can do training. We see other companies come in and say, look, I can do more than just a speaker over here. I can create programs that make money for me online while I'm sleeping. A lot of times they just don't think about it because they're so busy doing the work. And so these programs are so important because they bring it all together. And I cannot advocate enough mentorship, because that's the conversation where you really do the deep dive and the secrets come out. And you can really begin to figure out what's really going on with this business and how can we really help them be successful.
I think too that in that mentorship discussion, thanks VR, it's people think about, oh, like I need a mentor, but what does it mean to also mentor somebody? And what is that reciprocal, beautiful relationship of growth and share across both? And so I do want to make sure that we think about mentor and mentee both as possibilities for every woman entrepreneur out there. Before I shift to the next question, we did have a question in the chat that came in specifically about something you were talking about, Nick, which is what are some of the best places to find sponsorships?
So I am a mavericky kind of person, right? But relationships are key. And I think the strategy that we have really done is, if you can't beat them, join them, really that true collaboration. We have found that if you are a first-time entrepreneur, that means that you have been, employed, you are subject matter experts, really going to trade, and if not existing one, create ones with who you like, know, and trust. That is really all I did. And I have a long history as an entrepreneur, but I'm a professional person, and just being a person that is a trustworthy individual that does things not only to get, a quid pro quo, I'm an attorney too, but you don't do something for something, you do it just because you want to share, you want to be a servant leader. And I really think that by the time I thought about cashing in on my network by collaborating and bringing people together, I had stored up 2 decades of helping people so that when we said, hey, let's do this together, literally at 11:30 at night, I sent out a series of emails, and your reputation for being trustworthy, likable, credible, you have a network. Now pull it together as a leader, as an entrepreneur, and say, how can we shore up this and monetarily work together to create the win-win? So yes, you can go to third parties. There are dozens in the ecosystem, but I think the true networks that become transactional is where you trust one another, where you have a built-up rapport, and then you just really shift the way that you all are connecting. I will say, years ago when LinkedIn started, I didn't use it as well as I should, because I'm like, oh, these are just my friends. We're going to PTA meetings together. We're going to this. And then when you look at, like, you've built these natural relationships off of things that you have an affinity for, when you shift that to a business context, that opens up a whole nother resource of credibility and relationships that you can tap into.
I love that. Thank you. And the question really got excitement from some of the panelists too. So I'm going to ask, Dr. Williams to offer something, and then Leanne wants to offer something specifically to this question. So Dr. Williams and then Leanne.
Yeah, just to add on what Nick just said, I tell the entrepreneurs all the time, you're looking for these additional resources and particularly sponsors. Be ready. Don't overpromise and underdeliver, because your reputation is everything. And on the flip side, don't be afraid to ask. Many times, like Nick just said, on LinkedIn, you can see who's connected to whom, right? But why should I risk my reputation with this individual to introduce you if, one, I don't know you, or if you have a bad reputation? So I tell the entrepreneurs to definitely be prepared. And then also, for those of us that have creating programs, is definitely what's helped me is talking to the experts, having them come into the classes, because we don't know what we don't know. And another game changer for us in one of our programs is really teaching about the capability statement. I was surprised how many entrepreneurs didn't even know about this document, and that definitely changed their lives as far as providing them opportunities to have conversations with procurement officers, and also securing procurement opportunities. So again, for us educators, again, talking to the experts, staying in tune with what the SBA is doing as well, has definitely helped our programs throughout the years.
Deep appreciation. Leanne.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to offer for the question, especially right now where there's a lot of uncertainty. So for businesses, especially that are newer, a year or less, what I would encourage is fine-tuning your business plan. And one, ensuring you have a business plan, but second, continuing to fine-tune it so that you are ready for the unexpected. Whether you're a year in business or 30 years in business, also highly encourage business scenario planning. Right, that's healthy kind of overall business hygiene to understand kind of the what ifs, both from a financial perspective, as well as the projections, the financial projections of where things are going to land for you, where business might be at risk. If there are certain contracts that you are connected in with that might be at risk because of some of these changes that we're seeing, certainly going back to the business plan and then the continuity planning as well. How you do that is going to your local resources or national resources. Women's business centers, again, because that's our audience for today. There is one that's based in Southeast Florida, and there may be more than one. Also, Women Venture offers virtual courses, and so no matter where you are, as long as you've got a strong connection, we welcome you to participate. And we're finding from a lot of our clients that they need to pivot, right? They need to pivot because tariffs aren't impacting them, the cost of capital is impacting them, and the way to look at your business plan, not only in a hard paper document, but actually using technology to manage it live time, will really help to kind of offset some of the risks that you may be exposed to.
Appreciate that. And thank you, Leanne, because you partially answered a question that came in at the same time. You also opened your response with talking about the current context. So Jen, I'm wondering if you could help bring us home with this question on how can changes in local, state, and federal policy better support the growth and success of women-owned businesses. What areas require immediate attention right now, state of the world?
I would say right now, one of the bigger things that we're concentrating on is the Women-Owned Small Business Program, or WOSB, which gives got federal grants and contracts to women entrepreneurs. If that goes away, or if that gets minimized and the goals aren't met, it's really going to create a devastating impact on the women business owners that are actually utilizing the funds that are coming through those contracts to, hire people and keep their business alive and afloat. So I would say that would be one of the very big things. And being that the goals that the WOSB program sets up are just crucial to make sure that there's attention being paid to it, so that, we need to make sure that a number of business owners are really getting the support they need through these contracts. And it's a bipartisan deal, honestly, like keeping it just as a very small fraction, keeping our business owners like thriving within economic means. And it's not just about fairness, but about the strength of the economy. Like if we want the economy to be strong, we can't be taking away services and things like that that are actually really supporting them. And I would say in that is the CDFIs and the women's business centers. Like those things we need to be super thoughtful about, making sure that they're staying strong in our communities and that we're giving them the support they need.
Oh, you're on mute.
I'm muted, of course. I was like, I paused to cough for a second and I forgot. I think that's super important. I think we need to know where we should be putting our attention. And so thank you so much for that, Jen. There's a follow-up question from Joy. Joy, thanks for the original question because it generated a lot of excitement on the panel. The follow-up one is, do you feel nonprofits are better when starting charitable businesses or small LLC? Who would like to jump at that one?
I'd be happy to do that. I'll put my attorney hat on. I see a couple, although the full disclaimer, this is not legal advice. We are not involved in an engagement, a client attorney engagement. However, as friends, as BFFs, I'm going to tell you, number one, they have two purposes. All right. So a nonprofit is the IRS has a checklist of the type of business that you are engaging in. If it is for, and there's a definition. So I would encourage you, you can Google it. You can AI Google it and ask, what are the categories for a nonprofit to exist? That would be a corporation versus an LLC. So you're asking two different things: for-profit, nonprofit, and then LLC versus a corporation. Please consult with an attorney because they're two different questions. I also saw on there, where would you go before signing a lease agreement? Again, I would say generally as a tenant, attorneys are just like doctors, right? They're not, and I know we're almost on time, but get a business attorney will talk to you from a tenant's perspective. You're going to look at terms for your lease. You're going to see if it's a net all in, or it's bifurcated where you pay things a la carte, like, on your agreement. One of the biggest mistakes, hear me out, ladies, the biggest mistake is doing a contract without counsel. And I am an attorney, and my first business and business loss, I negotiated inside of a mall, and I got my shirt handed to me. I thought I had done all the research, and it was literally the biggest business mistake that I made. So get counsel, get counsel, get counsel. And then one more thing, get counsel.
Thanks so much, Nick. I'm looking at time, and I just want to thank you all so much for being here. For those of you all that were listening as we embark on this conversation today, I want us to remember that each of us carries the power to create meaningful change. This is more than just a webinar. It's a gathering of minds. It's a space for transformation. And quite frankly, it's a call to action. We get to listen, we get to learn, and we get to lead with intention, knowing that together, and I'm going to say this again, together, we're shaping a future rooted in resilience, innovation, and the strength of our communities. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn this over to Peter to close us out.
Thank you all so much. Wow, what a great discussion. I just want to once again thank our panelists for sharing their incredible expertise. I've been a part of every one of these virtual events and webinars in our series, and I was delighted by today's conversation and the perspective shared on the vital role that women are playing in our economy, women entrepreneurs specifically. Additionally, on behalf of AEO, I want to extend a sincere thank you to all of you who attended and listened to the conversation and being a part of this. Before we close, I will like to invite you to join our next Equity and Opportunity for All webinar, which I will drop in the chat right now. Great. So you can feel free to click our events link there. On April 22nd. We will be exploring the contributions of returning citizen entrepreneurs and opportunities for support in recognition of Second Chance Month. We've also shared links in the chat if you scroll up to sign up for our newsletter, as well as our upcoming events. And if you scroll even further back to the earlier days, our research page, as well as our fact sheet. So once again, thank you all so much for joining. This recording, as well as some more information, will be followed up in an email tomorrow. Expect that in your inbox. And thank you all again. We will see you at the next one.